Coming to you from the historic Hart Building in Marysville, California, in Studio 93, In the Tank with Fish, with your host, Bob Fischetti.
All right. Well, we are back with another exciting adventure.
Everyone's excited.
Everyone's exciting, right? I'm in the tank with Fish and Minnow. And before I do anything else, I want to thank people for watching. And remember, share, and subscribe.
Oh, I was going to say, you're so close. Yep.
I almost had it.
You nailed it.
I will get this podcast thing. You know, we live in a nation where we just elected the president because his son told him, go do a podcast. And I don't know if you know this, besides the fact that I think the new press secretary is quite possibly 27 years old and brilliant. 27. At 27, Kelly, I was not brilliant.
You were not allowed to be in charge of anyone.
Yeah. At 45, I was probably less brilliant. So anyway, and I don't know if you know this, but concerning the press, normally the press secretary has 2 seats where advisors sit. So if the press secretary gets in trouble, they can bail them out. They got rid of those 2 seats. They don't need them with this gal. Wow. That's number one. Number two, it'll be podcasters and influencers in those seats. Man, our world's changing. Yeah. And we're podcasters. So I'm going to put in for those 2 seats. What do you say? You want to go?
I don't think I have the time. You're going to have to be on your own.
I'll find somebody else to go.
Yeah, ask Lacey.
Get another Minnow.
Ask Lacey.
She'll
be a good
Minnow.
7.
They'd have to be guppy.
Yeah.
Did you ever have fish?
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah. We had a guppy. We had goldfish. Our longest standing goldfish were ones that we won from you toss the balls and they land in the little fish bowls. And those fish lasted years. I think my mom tried to kill them and they just kept going.
You know those half wine barrels that you can buy? So you can get those and then they have a plastic insert that goes in them. And then you turn it into an outdoor fish tank, right? So I did that, man. But, made sure I had the fountain in there, got the right food. And then I just went to Geyser Pets and got the little 10 cents a piece little fish that grow up. Put them in there. Man, they were growing and they started disappearing.
Oh, yeah.
So one of them was growing bigger than the other. So I made the assumption that one's eating the other fish. But that wasn't it. I had some sort of raccoon or something that thought I was providing the buffet.
Yeah, right? You were a fishing pond.
It's like, thank you for doing it. You're like emptying it, right? But for some reason left that big one. And it kept growing, because they'll grow the size of a tank. And one day I went out and only half the big one was laying on the deck. And I finally decided to chow down. That was the end of that. Yeah. But it was really fun while we had it.
Yeah. You need a cover on it, apparently.
Yeah, something. Screen to keep them out, So your week's been good?
It has, yeah.
Yeah. The boys are doing good?
They are.
Are they filled on Cheetos? Do I need to buy another bag?
They are still going on that bag.
That's a big bag. I saw that. Patty and I had to carry it out together.
Yeah. Can we get an assist to the car on this, please?
That's a big bag of Cheetos. It said like family or party or something.
It's like toddler size bag. That thing huge. Easily comes up to my knees. Yeah. They're still working on it. Every once in a while they'll have some. So they're working their way through it.
I'm surprised that little one hadn't finished that bag off by himself. He was wanting to not share.
He was wanting to not share, but he's also on a get healthy kick right now.
Oh.
So he's been telling me we need more vegetables, Mom. We need more protein. It's finally paying off all of my hard work. So
Cheetos are part of the food group. They're cheese.
They fit in that.
There's cheese.
You remember that old plate diagram that was like, here's your grains, here's your vegetables. Yeah, I didn't ever see a spot for Cheetos, but maybe.
I might have it wrong. It might have been potato
Your plate's
chips.
Probably just Cheetos with a little wedge or something else.
Actually, I am a carnivore.
Oh, yeah.
I am a meat eater. I tell people I'm a vegetarian. The cow eats the grass. I eat the cow. We're in, right? But
close enough.
But yeah, I'm a meat eater, and I can't even remember the last time I had it. but I like liver.
Oh. Sorry, sometimes I can't control my face.
Get a stop frame on that look, would you? That was,
okay.
Oh. I'm that way if you say peas.
Oh, yeah, I don't like peas either.
Oh.
But I honestly don't know if I've ever had liver. I just have heard the stories of my mom being forced to have liver and onions, and I've never had it.
Well, when I die, which I'm not going to die.
Is that what you're making everyone serve at your funeral?
No, I'm just saying that there's questions I have for God. Why mosquitoes, flies, and why peas? There was other green stuff.
Yeah.
Although okra's right up there. I'm not really into okra either.
I've never had okra.
I kill a green bean, though.
Okay, this summer.
Yeah.
We can have some from our garden. They're the best.
So we got a guest today I'm excited about because I've known him for a long time, on and off. We haven't been fishing together or anything, right? Not that kind of thing. But he's a good man, but he just married the best girl ever. My wife is the best girl. I would never, right? You
Patty, if you're watching.
Patty, if you're watching, I don't want you to think, right? But yeah, and we had his wife on, brilliant young lady. But part of the reason I think she's so smart is because she married this guy. Made the right choice. So you're going to love this guy. Okay. Because he's brilliant. And let me see. He gave me $20. He's brilliant.
Yeah, what else were you supposed to list off? I'm going to forget. You didn't write it on your hand?
$20, he gets brilliant. For 40, I'll say he's handsome, and I don't do that with dudes. So it's like,
he has great hair.
$40, that can be bought, right? So
he's getting his wallet out now. Look at that hair.
Everybody's waiting now. Who is it?
I know, we're all dying to know.
Yeah, so please welcome warmly President Trump. We'll be right back. Thanks for watching this. You need to stay tuned. You're going to love this next guy. And if you don't, get $20 from him. Hey, it's easy. 93Q Radio was an opportunity for what's called an LPFM to give the community a voice.
The big part of what's happening here is it's us. It's the community of us.
The work that Mr. Fischetti has done with us to promote public education has been absolutely groundbreaking.
They have the pulse of our community, from the nonprofits to the local governments. If you want to find out what's happening in our community, get on board with 93Q.
And 93Q does so much to help our community, helps us promote our local events, as well as local businesses, and tell our story about what we do here in Yuba City.
The folks that work here, they're part of our community, so they understand our needs, and that's important.
Local radio is so important during times of emergency. They're there. We lean on them to provide information to our public.
My wife and I are glad to support 93Q. We're going to do it on a monthly basis, but I really recommend that if you want to make your community better, this is a great place to take a first step right here.
So if you can, reach deep into your pocket and give to 93Q.
93Q is a great partner for law enforcement, and they're a great partner for the Yuba City area.
We're really asking people if you can give $10, $15, $20 a month, and then that enables us to continue to put small business spots on the air, nonprofits, organizations that they're using every dollar they got just to operate, and they don't have extra money to spend on really promoting their cause. And that is why community radio, to me, I'm grateful to be part of it, and that's why it's important.
Welcome back to In the Tank with Fish and Minnow. Today's guest is Michael
Ciociola.
It's still funny. Kurt is just dying.
With the subtitles, we're elevating everything that's happening.
And you have to come on to this, right?
Yeah, you didn't pay me $20. That's what you get.
What you can call it.
Budget cuts. Go D kicked in.
Mr. C, Michael C. You can.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for being a good sport.
Yeah. And your dad, they always call Pastor C. I've never heard that I can remember someone, when they're addressing him as Pastor Ciociola.
Because they can't.
They just go.
People, it's not Smith, it's not Jones, it's, it's ethnic. Yeah, it's good. Like I said,
A
you know,
lot
I
of
feel
vowels.
like that there was like a sale on vowels in 1100, and my ancestors were like, "We'll take 2 of everything."
And then we'll mesh it all together in this name.
Well, I
Kelly
can
can't
relate
pronounce.
having Fischetti.
There you
I
go.
can relate, and it's like, but when I grew up as a kid, Italians they were in sports. They were the singers. They were, they were in everything. Top of the game in baseball and boxing. I think Rocky Marciano was the only heavyweight to never be defeated.
All right.
And it's like, so we have a great heritage.
That's right. One of my ancestors on my grandma's side was a race car driver. Won, I think, like 2,000 races in his racing
Mario?
career. It was De Palma, Ralph De Palma.
I was going to say,
And he won the Indy 500 in, I think it was like 1915.
Wow.
And so, yeah, and everything. And okay, so I brought this guy up, but one of the races that he's most known for was not the ones that he won, but one where he was in the lead. I want to say this was like 1912 or something like that, 1913. I have to look it up. He was in the lead, and his vehicle had a mechanical failure, and it was dead on the tracks. And so as he's watching all these cars that he was in the lead, like now there's no way he's got a remote chance of winning. And instead of just walking away, he got out of the vehicle and he started pushing because he was going to finish. And the crowd got on their feet. It's in the newspaper because my family went to the museum. And my dad was like, I think we're related to one of the racers, race car drivers. And the historian was like, gave me the name, blah, blah, blah. And he took us back into the room and started telling us all these stories about Ralph De Palma. And this was one of the key ones was the race that he lost because he got out and he pushed.
Yeah.
And he was going to finish. And so that weekend in the paper was not a picture of the winner with the trophy. It was a picture of Ralph De Palma pushing his car because of the determination. We've got those stories because we've got family that were immigrants and came and knew what it took. It's going to take hard work. It's going to take determination. It's going to take that never quit attitude to build a life.
My dad was very big on education. My dad was the only one of 13 kids born in this country. And it didn't start out well. He was a cabbie in New York for a while. And but he only had an 8th grade education. He ended up the chief inspector on the F-4 Phantom for McDonnell Douglas. And I remember we used to go out to McDonald's, right? And not the restaurant, there. And they would talk about the different aircraft and the space things that they did. And my dad was so proud of that he had done that. So it was very big with us kids, you don't quit.
Right.
You stay with it. You don't quit. You keep going, and you'll succeed. And I've taken that to heart, so I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
Somewhere down
retiring.
Yeah.
Get out and push if you have to.
I'm not sure if the scripture about there is no retirement in this war or no rest for the wicked. I hope I'm really
There's no easy way, I think, is just the way to sum that up. There's no easy way. So pick.
So how did you're not native Californian?
No. No, I moved out here. It's got to be just over 30 years ago now. And you mentioned my wife, at the top of the show. And this Thursday, we'll be married for 21 years.
Oh, stop.
So, yeah.
Good for you
So we've
guys.
got an anniversary coming up. So I moved out.
So she isn't watching this. What are you going to do?
She'll be watching.
You're not getting the secrets.
I think he's getting double paid here. He's a double agent.
That's right.
You to ask that?
She paid me.
Exactly.
Kelly knows how it works.
Yeah. Been here.
So where were you born?
I was born in Chicago. I was born in Melrose Park. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So my dad was pastoring in Chicago The first church that he took had been an Italian ethnic, congregation. I still have somewhere in the house one of the old Italian hymn books in the house, and he was a pastor there on Belmont Avenue at that church, and then after several years, he took a church north of the city of Chicago in a town called Zion, and that's where I did most of my growing up. North of Chicago.
We were told when we were kids that it's already written in the heavens. You're either a priest or a criminal. There was like no in between. Can I just take a regular job? No. And so yeah. And your dad is very, very Italian. Just the way he everything about him. I look at him and I think him and Dean Martin had to hang out. Him and the chairman of the board.
Right.
He's just that way, and he's very gentle, but he's one of those gentle giants, right?
Right.
And you were a bit of a wild kid, though. You had your wild side. We don't have to talk about it.
We can talk about whatever.
Because I can get the police report just as easily. And so, growing up in that atmosphere with your dad being a pastor, and it's like, so pastors' kids always get, PKs, man, you get nailed. My poor boy got nailed for that, right? And it's almost like they expect you to have an image outside of being you.
Sure. I think,
not your family necessarily. Yeah. I mean, the way people look at it.
No, I think, one of the things that I appreciate about mom and dad and home life was that, looking back on it, I can see that mom and dad worked at protecting that and making home, because it is it's a public role.
Yeah.
Clergy is a very kind of public thing, and there's a lot of needs that go on that he was handling and still is, needs of a lot of people. And there's a lot of pressure that comes with that, no doubt.
Yeah.
I think for me growing up, on the front row of church, it put a lot in me because I knew all of the stories. I had heard them all, like all that richness of the Bible. It was like I had a college course by the time by the time I was in my early teens. Like I knew all of that. I think one of the other things too that afforded me was early on a sense of what the presence of God felt like. Now, I think
that's huge. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I mean, you've been a musician, and I think you still play.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things about music is that it's like a language of the soul. You can communicate with a few chords what would take you books to say in words. And there's something about being in a room full of people who are singing songs and making music for its highest purpose, and that's giving it back to the one who made it. And when you have people doing that in a setting like that, God shows up. He's not just going to hang out like, at the other side of the universe. He's going to this is a great place.
I'm going to these guys.
I'm going to hang out with this.
There.
Right. And that's something that you feel.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think probably everyone's at this point been in a situation where you felt the opposite. You were in a place or you were with a person and you knew there was something off. There was something wrong. There was something dark. There was something evil in the place or around a person, and you could feel it. And God's presence is the same in that it's tangible. You can feel when God is in the room. Yeah. And I remember feeling that many times very powerfully in church, in the house. Like, I don't know if you ever had this experience when you walked in the room where like your mom was praying and the Bible was open or whatever, and you just like walk in and you're like, God, I feel God in the house. And those kind of things happen. I think one of the stories that was kind of a trajectory of life moments, though, was a painful one for me at like 13, around the age of 13 or 14. There were just some painful things that happened in the church. It happens. Probably people who are listening or watching who've had any experience at church whatsoever might have a similar painful story to share about something difficult that happens that, and that happened for me at that age, when you're in your early teens, and then you start to really understand in a very real way that just because people go to church doesn't necessarily also equate to they're going to make decisions in the way that would be honoring of Jesus. Mm-hmm. And
that was a very kind way to put that. Like, I think we're talking some betrayal. I mean, it's really true. I think because it's so personal.
Yeah.
In the end, he said, they did great stuff, but he said, but you didn't know me. And I do think that within the confines of the church, that there are people that really push to know him.
Sure.
And then there's people who, I want a position or I want whatever. And it's very difficult. You have people who've been friends for a year, and the church will go through something and they don't talk to each other ever again, And that's a hard experience in the church to have something that there's other things that can happen.
For sure.
But it's like it's very difficult because you're at a young age, you're trying to sort through what just happened.
Right. I think if we were all going to just like sort of share life stories, I think I'll just sort of say it this way, that it would probably be true that some of the most important things that we learned in our lives were things that came out of difficult circumstances, painful circumstances, and then what we chose to do with it, how we chose to respond after something happened.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And how we respond after bad things happen, I think, is a really key. Like I was just talking about, earlier, Ralph, like a bad thing happened, but what did he do? He got out and pushed. It was a total victory, like for his, it was a loss, but it was also a win. And for me, like in that moment, I'm just being transparent. Like, it was a thing where I allowed it to make me bitter at 13, cynical about all of it, like the church, the people, all of it. I hated some people for what they were trying to do. That they tried to do to Dad, and resented that, let the bitterness grow, and it just created a lot of conflict at home. Did a lot of things that I wish I hadn't, that I regret. And it wound up bringing me to another painful place in my life, where I had, unfortunately, burned some bridges in my own family, and made a lot of regret, created a lot of broken relationships. And someone was talking about Marvin and Louise. I think it was your producer was talking about Calvary.
The Longs.
Marvin and Louise Long were pastoring out here in Yuba City. And they had founded Calvary and pastored it for decades, and great people. Louise is still there on Sunday mornings, and she is amazing. And they were looking for, who's going to take our life's work. They got a hold of Dad's info on the other side of the country. There's a whole story there where they were praying about it, and they knew they had to meet my dad. My parents and they connected, and they moved out here. I was still on the other side of the country. I was in Florida at the time, on my own program, doing my own thing. Nothing to do. I didn't want anything to do with church or God or any of that stuff.
So you left Chicago and went to Florida, but your dad was still in Chicago.
So what happened was, so in that church, North Chicago in Zion, Dad had asked the board, like, hey, would you put aside some of my salary? He's in his 40s. He's got a couple of teenage kids. He's like, and we were living in a parsonage. And if you don't know what a parsonage is, it's a church-owned property. And he's thinking about the future and life. And he's like, hey, would you put aside some salary? Because when my kids go off or someday when I retire, I want to purchase my own home. And the board was like, that's great. We'll totally do it. Well, one of the board members' wives heard that the pastor wanted to buy his own house and thought that was the most worldly, ungodly thing that a pastor would own his own house, and created a division in the church about it.
Isn't that amazing? It's like, is that big a deal? I guess.
And so Dad, when he got wind of it, he just said, hey, I'm not going to be the man that divides this congregation.
Yeah.
Here's my resignation. And then we moved. And of course, me being 13 and leaving all my world, I was like, what just happened? And so I was in Florida. Now I'm graduated high school, just starting college, and I'm on my own program. If there's people listening and you've got kids who are not walking with the Lord, don't stop praying. I'm sitting here.
Boy, there's a truth there.
I'm sitting
Absolute
here
truth there.
as evidence that God is listening to the praying moms and praying dads for your family. Don't stop. And
I think especially moms. I don't know why. I think moms have this direct line. It's almost like God says, you know what, honey, I already knew that.
Yeah.
But thanks for asking.
Right.
And I got it. You know,
Yeah.
It's like I always see this picture of Jesus is forever intercessing for the saints. So he's, like kneeling, right?
Yeah.
Interceding, right? And he's surrounded by moms, right? Who all get it, right?
Yeah.
It's like, we're in, we get it, Yeah, just sort of automatic. My mom prayed for me. I was a mess, man, but my mom did. And my aunt told me one time, don't think your mother was the only one on her knees for you, young man.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay.
I'm so grateful
that
people went to battle, on our behalf.
Yeah.
And it pays off because we're sitting here talking about it. But so they came out here to California. I was still in Florida. I wound up in a hospital in Connecticut. I'll make this a short version of it. But I wound up in a hospital in Connecticut at Christmas. And that's where God intervened in my life. And I knew through another painful circumstance that had kind of come around full circle that this was a moment where God and I were going to have a serious talk about what the future had in store. And so, and that was where I decided I'm not going back. I'm going to California, reconnect with the family, serve God, learn from Dad.
Smart move. I'm really grateful you did.
So, yeah.
I remember you had told me that story, but I had also heard from your dad that you were really sick. You were really, that thing was about to take you out. So it was not,
Yeah.
But, and I know that Michael, it's hard for people to understand it because I've said this, right? It's like, it's those times, it's those hard times, it's those, whether it's a sickness or something else that have drawn me closer to God.
That's right.
And enabled me to trust him without that. So it's not like I'm like, bring it. It's like, I'll just take all the tragedy you got, right? I'm not there, right? But how can you not be grateful when you see the shift it causes in you?
That's right.
And I love the way you said it was time that God and I had this conversation.
Yeah.
People don't believe that, but there are times when that conversation is the most significant. It's the most poignant time in your life,
right? Because
it's the most real with the Creator.
That's right.
It's bottom line, all gloves are off.
Right.
We're going to have this chat, right?
Yep.
And he's such a good God that he's like, go ahead.
Yeah.
Give it your best shot.
Right.
Tell me, tell me what you got, and then you're going to find out who I am.
Right.
And when you find out who I am, you'll know I was with you all along. I was with you through that whole drama, right? Yeah. Yeah. But I remembered that about you, and I've always admired that was a part of you that you had to make that decision. I figured, but didn't know that the other side of it, where you had the praying mom and dad. I figured they were,
yeah.
but the fact that you would acknowledge that's important. Do not quit
don't
praying
stop.
for your kids.
I'm sure there are parents or grandparents who are, listening or watching this, and their heart is heavy with maybe what's going on at home or with the family. And so don't stop, because it works.
Yeah.
There's payoff.
I still pray for my boys. My oldest son is 50, or maybe he's 49. I think he'll be 50 coming up here. He's got a birthday March.
Yeah.
That's right, St. Patrick's Day. An Italian boy born on St. Patrick's Day. He really doesn't know what to do, right? He's just like, he's lost in that, right? But yeah, and I don't think, you got kids. You're never going to quit praying for them.
No.
I don't know. It's just like innate, right?
That's right.
And especially when somebody prayed for you and you're like, oh, that's how this works.
Yeah. And that was another, great thing of, since we're just kind of talking about life, stuff. And that is, after I met Kirsten and we got married 21 years ago on Thursday.
Good choice, Kirsten. Good choice. Just saying. Good choice.
We wanted to have a little bit of time just as, husband and wife, and enjoy life for a little bit before we started having kids. And then when we wanted to start a family, it didn't happen right away. And there was a journey in that too. That was another, there's so many moments here, where it was just one of those answers to prayer where you don't know what to do. We went through it was 4 years later, because we had gone through all the fertility doctors and went through all that process, and nothing was working. And they didn't have answers, which was more frustrating. Look, I'm so grateful for medical professionals, and they spend their entire life trying to figure out the cutting edge ways to help people. But at the end of the day, they're people, and they don't necessarily have all the answers. And they didn't. It was called undiagnosed infertility, and which is just a fancy way of saying we don't know. The numbers are all there, but and that's when we went to our families, and we were like, okay, here's the journey we've been on. Would you pray? And right after the other, my daughter is 12; she'll be 13 in April. My son's 11, and he'll be 12 in July. And God is faithful.
He is. Yeah. Beyond understanding. I want to go down a road with you, because you're a pastor's kid.
Yeah.
You're in the church with your dad.
Yeah.
And some people would say, well, you're only doing that because your dad does it, right?
Right.
But that is absolutely not true. You've made your own choices.
That's right.
You are where you're at. And I'm just one of those guys, I can see certain things on people from all the years of being a pastor and being around. And you definitely have that touch on you. It has, I'm not going to say it has anything to do with your dad, but because you've been around him and you've learned from him. But you are definitely your own man with your own calling, your own purpose, and your own destiny. And that shows up very clearly in you, right? When did that happen, Michael? At what point was it no longer the God of my daddy, right? But
right.
Or the mission of my daddy or the ministry of my daddy? At what point for Michael did it happen? I know this is between me and you, Father God, right? When did that happen for you?
There's more than one of those.
Okay.
There's more than one of those. Of course, we talked about one where I'd been at the steering wheel of my own life. I was doing music, I was doing theater, I had my own, abilities and gifts, and I was on that track. And wanted nothing to do with church or God or any of that stuff. And that, the painful results of those that kind of decision making, and the conversation that I had with God in Yale New Haven Hospital was one of those moments for me. because it was him and me.
Mm-hmm.
I was in isolation in the room.
Wow.
When I was there, like the doctors and nurses who would come in gear. And so there are moments where it's just you and God. And
Best moments ever, but frightening
difficult,
at times.
difficult, but important.
Yeah.
And I would say another one of those was having come out here to serve. There was a few of them, because one of my conversations with God there was, I'm not the right guy for this. Like, I grew up in a pastor's home. I'm not like the suit and tie kind of guy.
Yeah.
I don't fit the mold. You're making a wrong decision, and I question it. But I'll do what you want. Like, I'll go, But I'm just saying, like, so
I'm not saying you don't have wisdom, God.
I'm just saying I know better.
I mean, you're God, so, but you
question your choices.
Sure you got the right dude? Because oh man, I can relate to that.
I told him, I warned him, and he picked me anyway. And I came out here, and I remember one of those moments was we had this conversation in my dad's living room, and he was like, hey, I want to do something on Memorial Day weekend that really shows the gratitude that we have for the sacrifices that have been made for this country, besides just having veterans stand up and appreciate them or something like that. What can we do? And so we started having this conversation in the living room about what we could do on Memorial Day weekend. And, I'm coming from a production background standpoint, that kind of stuff. And we start talking about what could be. Well, you've been to a Grateful Nation, so you've seen what it is. There's some very moving tributes that take place there. And I remember one year, it was early on, it was right after we had wrapped a Grateful Nation, and there was a group of Vietnam veterans who said, hey, that Vietnam tribute, would you do that one more time, but just for us? And so we kind of scrambled around, because there's a team involved in that, and asked the team, like, hey, would you stick around for a little bit and just run this tribute for this group of guys? And everybody was like, yeah, we'll totally stick around and do it. So we all, go back into the sanctuary. We run this tribute, which is a tribute that takes place at several recreated panels of the Vietnam Wall. And we lock the doors so nobody could interrupt or, what's going on. So there's a group of, 2 or 3 rows of just Vietnam veterans. And I'm standing in the back of the auditorium, and we run this tribute, and it wraps up. And then one of the guys stands up, and he turns around to look at his buddies who are standing there. And he starts opening up his heart and sharing stories that he probably hasn't talked about in a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And he's emotional. He sits down, and then another guy pops up, and he does the same thing. And then another one. And I'm standing in the back, and God whispered to my heart, and he was like, don't question me again.
Yeah, exactly.
I knew what I was doing when I picked you. You questioned it because you felt like you didn't fit a mold, but I'm using you. I'm using what I put in you. And that was one of those moments for me. There's others that I could tell you stories about, conversations that I've had with him when I had my own self-doubts, and how he came in and what he said, whether it was through his word or just through moments like that. When you have someone from, my dad's generation come up to you emotional and say, no one ever said thank you to me before this.
Yeah,
And,
that's what got me was the thank you.
And so you start to realize there's these moments where God comes to you and he just confirms, I have my hand on you. I know what I was doing. Whatever your self-doubts were or your questions were, your anxieties were, I got this.
I think I wanted to ask you that for that exact reason.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes people look at ministry in a church as like the old apostolic succession, right?
Sure.
You know, you just sort of grow up in it and you do it.
Yeah.
And I want people to understand, you know, for all of us, it's an individual thing. No matter where your family's at or anybody,
That's right.
that could be a great blessing, you know. But there is something that happens where you know it's you. You know, I'm supposed to do this.
Right.
And the one that convinces you to do that is God.
Right.
You know, people can tell you, I mean, I had people tell me, well, you're this, you're that, right? But it wasn't until God said, this is it. This is what I
Right.
want you to do. And
Yeah.
it changed everything. And then it really didn't matter what people thought. It
Right.
really sets you free in a unique way. And it's like, well, you know, think whatever you want. But between me and Dad, you know, this is where I'm supposed to be doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Right.
But it is those moments. I'm glad you told me that because I went to that twice. You guys talked me into going this last time. The first time I was in uniform and I walked out and just stood outside and just wept. You know, I just couldn't do anything else. It was so powerful. And then this last time, I was like, I told you guys, I'm not going back there, you know? And I went back and there's some little gal in uniform next to me. And I saw when the guy walked up to the wall and I said, I hope you don't mind, but this old man's about to get emotional. And I reached over and grabbed her. I held this little gal's hand and just because it's so hard to understand that the simple thank you is powerful. It's powerful.
Yeah.
You know, us guys, we went in, you know, our fathers were World War II. They came back, Korea, they came back and were honored. And we didn't come back to that.
Right.
It didn't matter what you did. It didn't matter if you were in country or a support or whatever, but it just didn't happen. We had a nation that absolutely turned against it. And for you guys to even have a program called A Grateful Nation,
Yeah.
the thought that we'd be thanked for that. That was 4 years of my life. Well, more than 4 years of my life, right? And it's like, well, what happens now? Well, God touches somebody, right, to go do this, and I get to go. And God says, I'm going to make sure you know.
Yeah. And look, somebody who on his own program really shouldn't even be having here a conversation with you. Like, I know that it's only because of his grace that I'm even alive having this conversation with you. But see, that's how God gets the praise. There's this beautiful vision of heaven that John had when all of us are there around the throne.
Oh, man.
And all of the crowns that are passed out wind up really where they belong.
On the ground.
At the feet of Jesus. It's the most honest moment of worship is to acknowledge it was only you. It was only you.
For everything.
All along.
Yeah.
But in that process of, creating that, like the attitude of thankfulness, of gratitude, changes everything. Look, it doesn't mean that hard things don't happen, but when you can face hard times with a good attitude, it just changes the atmosphere, doesn't it? Like if you can still laugh in the middle of the crazy, stupid, annoying, frustrating stuff that goes on, and you can still choose to laugh, you can still choose to identify the things that you are thankful for, it changes your attitude, it changes the atmosphere for people around you who are with you, because you can do hard things with a real sucky attitude, and it just brings everything, like now there's dark clouds over everything, and like you can't even like get through the house without like getting whatever, just stupid stuff. You dropped it, or you forgot it, or you got hooked up on the doorknob, or whatever happened. And everything's frustrating and everything's bad now, whatever it was, because you heard something on the news, or you got that phone call that you didn't expect, and or that email that informed you that something really bad was about to happen, whatever it was. But if you can still hold on to a thankful heart and have some gratitude in your life for the things that you were given, there isn't any difficulty that you can't overcome when you just have a thankful gratitude, a heart of gratitude. And it shifts things for the people around you too. And there's this beautiful psalm, speaking of gratitude, where God says, he who sacrifices thank offerings honors me and prepares the way that I may show him my salvation. I think when we just have a grateful heart, it just opens, it opens up a 6-lane highway for God to bring good things into our life. When we just have a good attitude, instead of letting the bad things just drag us down. That weekend, by far now, as emotional and impactful as Memorial Day weekend is my favorite weekend. Not because of all the things that are wonderful, things that are planned. And there are some really cool things that go on at A Grateful Nation Remembers. I'm thankful for all the volunteers, more than 200 volunteers come together to make that happen every year. And but really the most beautiful things that happen on that weekend are not any of the things that I planned. They're the things that I could never plan. There are things like, we're talking about the Vietnam era tribute. Non Nguyen, who comes up to this every year. She's in the evacuation of Saigon. She's the last person out of the building, and she's in the pictures on the rooftop. There's a Huey that's like hanging off there, and there's a Marine who's throwing everybody, and she's in the pictures. She comes to this every year. She makes her egg rolls for the cast, and Dad introduces her along with the mayor and, the wing commander and anybody else who's there. And there's Non Nguyen, and she's the last person out of the...
Didn't you one year have the Marine there?
So, yeah. So another year goes by, and I'm standing in the back of the auditorium, and the keynote speaker wraps up, and everybody's filing out. And I see this guy pop up in front of the audio board, tall guy, Dad's generation, and he's got his Marine dress uniform on, but he goes in the other direction towards the front, and he wants to talk with Non, and they start having this conversation. You can see, I couldn't hear from where I was standing, but you could see they were engaged, and it was emotional, and they embraced each other. And it turns out that the Marine in the picture of the evacuation of the U.S. Embassy of Saigon shows up at A Grateful Nation Remembers. He had been diagnosed with terminal cancer and had moved up to Northern California to be near his kids towards the end, and heard, hey, there's something in Yuba City on Memorial Day weekend, A Grateful Nation Remembers. I think I'll go check it out. And he's sitting in that auditorium, and there in the same room is the woman that he put on a helicopter decades earlier.
Wow.
That's amazing.
And that kind of thing happens every year.
Something.
And I think, I know it's because God sees the things that we can do, that you and I, we can do. We're limited. We can do what we can do. But God sees when we just simply act in obedience and be obedient to what he put in front of us to do. And then he comes in and he goes, now watch. Now watch me work.
Well, you were talking about being thankful, and for me, the first time that happened, I was in a church, and they said, if you're World War II vet, Korean vet, and then they got to Vietnam, and my wife and I are both vets, and they said, stand up. And I stood up and they said, thank you. It's so hard to comprehend how expansive the word thank you is, what it does to the individual. And, now we hear people say, they hear you were in the military, they say, thank you for your service, right? And I've always, thought, well, you were worth it because you didn't do it. That's why you did it, right? I didn't do it because I was going to get the GI Bill. Right. I didn't do it. I wasn't raised that way. My father was 35 years old and enlisted during World War II. 35 is they called him Pappy. Right. 35 is old. And he jumped out of airplanes. It's like, okay, I got a legacy. Right. See what I got to do, right? But it's amazing because it's really true. When you're going through the hardest times in life, being able to say to God, thank you, because there's more coming. That's right. Right? That He is the beginning and the end. And being able to being able to say thank you in the hard times is such a critical part of the learning curve to walking with God. Yeah. And when you were talking about that, and that's why, so what a great name, whoever came up with A Grateful Nation, man, that speaks to every single veteran, right? You want to know it was worth it. Yeah. Right? Did anybody even notice? Right? And so, it was amazing. And for you to get plugged into that, which, by the way, I've heard you sing. And that was another time I met you. We were doing an event. Okay. I don't remember what the event was, but you got up.
Oh, yeah. I remember this.
And that's how I met your wife. Okay. Because you got up to sing, and these girls are singing behind you. And I'm like, who are they? And then I find out later they've been singing together for years. These girls are like, whoa. It's like, really, really good. But I didn't know he could sing. You just find out stuff all the time.
Thanks, Mom. I got that from Mom.
Mom's watching too. Probably Dad, right? Yep. So listen, we got a few more minutes. Yeah. I could walk through a ton of stuff with you, just because we have a lot of similarities. And then at the same time, it's like, where's it going now? Yeah. I just want to know. Okay. Michael, you've been around serving God. You've been through tough stuff and good stuff and a bunch of everything. But where do you see things now? Not just for you, but what's God doing? Yeah. What do you think He's doing?
Wow, this is a big topic.
I know. We only got 10 minutes, right? But I just felt like everybody has sort of these impressions. What's God doing?
Look, I feel like we're in a unique season. I feel like we've got an opportunity. We were, I think, talking about some of this just before, we came in to talk about the show, because you were sharing some things with me about doors of opportunity that God is opening for you. And I was just, talking about, sometimes you just feel like this urgency of we've got this moment to do, and there's much to do. Remember when Jesus said, everything's ready, the fields are ripe. What you need to pray for is workers. Yeah. People who will show up and step up and do hard things. And I think we could both use some of that.
No kidding.
With the opportunities that God has opened up. So I think for us on a national level, I think for California, and I think just in the sphere that God has given us, I feel like this is a season of urgency, of movement, of opportunity, where there's several things that need to take place, and you see it, and you know it, and you're pushing, and you're like, how fast can I get there? I don't know about you, but sometimes I'm an impatient person, and I'm like, I just want it to happen right now. I think on some of those levels, my wife is on the school board, because we see a need as parents for there to be that voice here in our community, an advocate for parents and education. And I think in terms of what goes on in the future, in terms of our role in the community, partnering with guys like Rick Green and the Patriot Academy that goes on out in Texas. If you don't know what that is, just look up a Patriot Academy. It's basically a civics camp for high school students, and they have a veterans track. And what they do is they've built a Senate chambers, and during that process, everyone there learns how to write and debate and pass bills and prepare another generation for public service. I think this is a fantastic idea, and would love to see there be an intentionality behind getting our young people and our veterans ready to engage with public service, because we're here to affect change.
Yeah.
That's why we're here. That's why he spent his time pulling us out of the stuff he did, to show us who he is and how much he loves us, but also to influence and affect other things that are going on.
General Flynn, when he came out here, they asked me to MC the Veterans Breakfast, which with a general, you really don't do anything. You stand at parade rest, and the general does
He's
whatever
going to do whatever he wants to do.
But he said two things. One, he thanked all of us veterans for our service, and then he said, "You're not done. Get involved in your community.
Yeah.
Get on the school board. Get involved." So I can appreciate what you're saying is that, and because, if you've been in the military, you've learned how to serve. You learned how to, you learn how to walk in camaraderie.
Yeah.
Right. And so, that just makes sense to me to have something like that where it's like, you guys aren't done. Go do something. What are you going to get involved in?
Right.
And I do think we're in a season where things. I always say I want to go at God's speed, right? Because I'm like you. It's like, let's just get it done.
Let's go. And let's do it right now.
So God's speed is I don't want to be ahead of him or behind him.
Yeah.
I want to shoulder up, and it's like I want a co-mission.
Yeah.
He set the mission. I want to co-mission with him,
It's good.
and walk with him, which isn't always easy. I just want to, it's like,
I want to hit the accelerator right now.
How about the tires spin, and it's like, yeah, so I get that. But I agree with you. I think we're in that season. It's a very, I refer to it as a, call to duty. You can feel it's like, man, we need to get moving. And it's at times it's pretty overwhelming. It's like, it's like, well, you just tell me where, I'm there, right? But it's like, well, get your shoes on first. I'll go barefoot, Jesus. No. I have you in those boots for a reason. It's like, all right, I'll do it. So it's that waiting. But you were right. You started off talking about yes, no, or wait, and it's like
and to
sometimes
be with
to
him.
wait, but still knowing that.
That is key. What you said right there, to be with him, and in all of and to not lose that in the doing of the thing. You're a man of action. You want to do things. I get that. I'm with that. And I think sometimes that counterbalances, okay, but like you said, be with me, believe.
Yeah.
And
don't
Yeah.
run ahead. Let me clear the way first. So we have for you.
No.
You only get one of these by going in the tank.
I love it.
I think your wife has one.
I was going to say, you guys can have matching mugs now.
I love it. Did she get one?
She's been hiding it from you.
But she didn't want to, and now you can proudly.
Now you can.
I love it.
Been in the
you know what? I brought something for you too, but I forgot it in the truck.
Oh, it's a cannoli.
No, it's not a cannoli. Well, we were in Oahu, and I got to go see Pearl Harbor.
Oh man!
And I got you a little something.
Oh man!
From that. Listen, that was one of the deciding factors, because I've been to Maui. We were talking about your trip to Maui, and Maui was our anniversary, or our honeymoon, and I haven't been to Hawaii since. Wow. And so this a couple of weeks ago, we were like, you know what? The kids are learning history. I want them to not just read it in a book. I want them to see it. Yeah. And so we went there, and it was amazing.
So I have a parting remark for you because we got to go, and that is, I would be absolutely fine if you'd run for governor.
We could almost pick randomly someone in the neighborhoods in which we live.
Yeah. So
and get something better.
I think you should run for governor.
This is not a compliment.
and Kirsten would be a great first lady. But if she'll run for governor, I'm okay with you being the first dude.
Look, we have an amazing state. Yeah. California is beautiful. There's intelligent, hardworking, creative people that have changed so much in great ways about America, about history, about, everything. And I think if we just reconnect, have you ever, okay, so I know you're trying to wrap up, but did you ever see that movie, The Bourne Identity?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's this spy action flick. Have you seen it?
Oh, yes.
I love it.
So you remember at the beginning of the movie, Jason Bourne wakes up and he doesn't know who he is, and he doesn't know why he washed up on the beach or why he's wounded or what this number is that he's got on his thigh, whatever. He doesn't know. But in the course of the movie, when he starts to reconnect with who he is, which is the plot of the movie, he's unstoppable. He's got all these skills. He's like a sniper and a hand-to-hand combat, and he's got all of these abilities that have been buried down inside of him. But what it takes is for him to reconnect with who he really is. And I feel like in many ways, our society is kind of at the first 5 minutes, and we're like, okay, why did all these bad things happen, and how did we get here, and what's the story? And if we could just reconnect with our history, with our founders, with our faith, and reconnect with our identity, we would be unstoppable. California would be unleashed with all of its potential, would be amazing. But leadership matters.
So,
leadership matters. To your point.
Do you and your wife do a podcast?
No.
Why
we
not?
just raise kids.
Which is the not.
They're our podcast.
Yeah. They create great stories.
Thank you. Thanks for coming on,
Thank you
man.
for having me.
I've been waiting for a while for this one. I invited you, I don't even know when, and we both lived these moving lives, and but I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me and just opening up about life, and I know God's got good things for you.
I want people to know that there's authenticity. Specifically, I think sometimes people don't see the people in the church. They see the church. They see the building. They see the right.
Yeah.
And I want them to know, right? I really didn't know your wife. I met you before your wife, but I really think she's very authentic. Both you guys are.
She's amazing.
And I just think it's awesome when people get to hear. Look, here's the truth about walking this out.
Right.
You're not a young man anymore.
Right.
I mean,
that's okay. I'm good with that. I'm good.
That you could have kicked me right then. It would have been okay.
I'm just going to let you dig.
But it's the things we go through that really mature us to walk with God.
Right.
And so I wanted people to see with you in particular and with your wife that you guys are very authentic. You're very passionate about what you do. You know how important it is. And once you know the importance, that's where the purpose and the destiny, they just flow right into that, right? Because they push that forward. And you guys are very much like that. And so, again, if you run for governor, I'm voting for you.
Yay. Okay.
All right. We're going to be right back. I want to thank Michael Ciociola.
I was not saying it.
But we'll be right back. Stay with us. 93Q Radio was an opportunity for what's called an LPFM to give the community a voice.
The big part of what's happening here is It's us. It's the community of us.
The work that Mr. Fischetti has done with us to promote public education has been absolutely groundbreaking.
They have the pulse of our community from the nonprofits to the local governments. If you want to find out what's happening in our community, get on board with 93Q.
And 93Q does so much to help our community, helps us promote our local events, as well as local businesses, and tell our story about what we do here in Yuba City.
The folks that work here, they're part of our community, so they understand our needs, and that's important.
Local radio is so important during times of emergency. They're there. We lean on them to provide information to our public.
My wife and I are glad to support 93Q. We're going to do it on a monthly basis, but I really recommend that if you want to make your community better, this is a great place to take a first step right here.
So if you can, reach deep into your pocket and give to 93Q.
93Q is a great partner for law enforcement, and they're a great partner for the Yuba City area.
We're really asking people if you can give $10, $15, $20 a month, and then that enables us to continue to put small business spots on the air, nonprofits, organizations that are they're using every dollar they got just to operate, and they don't have extra money to spend on really promoting their cause. And that is why community radio, to me, I'm grateful to be part of it, and that's why it's important.
Welcome back.
We're having too much fun doing this. So we're really grateful you came back.
Too.
That was fun, huh? He's really
really
the real deal.
Yeah.
Really the real deal. I enjoyed Michael and
I know.
And,
and they are like, now that I've met both of them.
Oh, they were designed for each other. It was a divine
perfect.
design.
Yeah. Well, he was talking ahead of time that it was a, arranged marriage by parents, but that's sometimes how it goes.
Well, they're Italian, it's like, you're going to marry that girl.
Yeah.
but and I think she's like Basque or something,
I don't remember.
But yeah, and it's like I love the freedom that we have to do these, to let people, talk about things that are important, right, to them. And I mean, I apologize for getting emotional, but that whole military thing is huge for me. And so, but just knowing that exists, but right here in our area.
Yeah.
And then having the stories that go with it, but also his personal story of the challenges of being a pastor's kid, and then seeing things go on that you think this shouldn't happen in the church, and then having to go through that. It's a real story, and it is sometimes the reason people say I'll never darken the door again. Yeah. Because I can't believe people are like that, but we're all like that to a degree, right? We all have stuff. But but hearing that for real, and then the great story about him coming back, and God blessed him with a great wife, and he's got the kids and the whole catastrophe, the house, right? It's like, but
he's so genuine, and you can you just get that from him.
Yeah, very artistic. He can sing, he can act, and so like he said, he was doing his own thing, and God didn't change that. He just said, look, Michael, I want you to do this for me.
Yeah.
And then in a unique way, doing it for veterans, even that part, but just the way it turns out. And then his wife's a songbird. I mean, again, the right connection, you know, and that was really fun though. Fun talking to him.
Yeah. He's super neat. I'm glad we got to meet him.
Yeah. See, now you've met both. Now you got to go meet the kids, introduce your kids to their
I know. I feel like they would have fun.
Yeah.
They're pretty close in age. He said 11 and 12.
I think, yeah.
I think so. Yeah. Well, no, we'll go check out their church.
Yeah, do it. But when you go, take a bag of Cheetos. So when they do the offering, put the Cheetos in.
Put the Cheetos in. He'll know who they're from. I know, right? I feel like he's being bought out by Cheetos. They're like, we can't do Cheeto commercials, but we can use fish. You got $20 from Michael.
Yeah.
Where else are you getting money from?
Yeah, exactly. You don't know, but I'm working an angle all the time, right?
I don't even have to pay you to say nice things about me. That's so nice of you.
No, you're in. You were in from day one.
I know. I actually rewatched our first interview not that long ago. And I was like, oh, it was fun.
Oh, so it's still available?
It's still available. And it's when you insisted I be your co-host.
Well, I just knew. I could just, feel it. Relationally, it's easy for you and I. We get along, right? Yeah. But it's more than that, And so it's like because you were doing it, you automatically understood.
Yeah.
I didn't have to explain what we're doing,
nope.
And so that made it easy.
Yeah.
I just forgot we're actually on air. I actually did that. I just realized, oh yeah. I'm just like having this conversation.
Welcome to our world.
It's like,
we're super fun.
You
should join us.
Don't mind us. We'll be. So we have some people coming up that are going to be fun. This will break Saturday, which will be already after our dinner.
We'll be on a cruise.
But Saturday we will be doing all day here for the radio station, 7 to 7. And just a fundraiser to do what we do. And I do think that if they're watching this podcast, they watch you and I, they got to be saying, I could do that. Right? It's like,
right?
That can't be that. If those two can do that, I can do that.
You can do what we do. You just can't do what Kurt does.
Yeah. But we throw Kurt in. If you come in and do a podcast, you can lease this podcast room and you get Kurt with the lease.
Winning. And maybe a bag of Cheetos.
Yeah, there could be. We could leave like a bag of Cheetos for you, or maybe maybe you're not a Cheetos person. You're a potato chip, sea salt. I don't know.
It's just got a whole nother level. It goes from Cheetos to sea salt potato chips. Tortilla chips next. Yeah, you're just going down.
I'm going down. Is there an up? They do have. Listen, one time I went to. I want to say it was Sam's Club. I might be wrong. But anyway, they have vegetable like fries.
Veggie straws. Yeah. Veggie straws.
Yeah.
My kids love them.
Yeah.
But not the green ones because they taste like spinach.
Yeah. Well, I bought a bag of them and I really liked them.
Yeah.
But I just could not connect that it was healthy.
Yeah. No, it's not. It still has a bunch of other stuff. It's just, no, it's not.
Yeah, but if you took some frozen green beans, and just let them dry out,
dehydrate them,
they wouldn't taste like that.
No, they'd lose some of their flavor.
Yeah,
once again, we're on our own over here.
It's like a dried out
podcast. Wrap it up, sir.
All right. We want to thank you for joining in. And if you'd like to get in on our dehydration special, let us know what vegetable you've recently dehydrated.
Cheeks hurt from today.
Feel free. It's like so. But thanks for watching. We hope you appreciated this. Time with Michael Ciociola. He is his father pastors Calvary Temple, I think it is. It's on Highway 20, good-sized church over there. Nice folks, great folks, and I loved his story, and it just very real, very true. And so we're going to continue. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and because when you share this, then somebody else can get the benefit of this insanity.
Whether you want it or not.
Thanks for watching, and I always want to leave you with this. Cheetos are not that expensive.